Have you ever wondered why anxiety just won't budge? Like, what is it doing here anyway? Welcome to the Ease Anxiety Podcast. I'm Deanta Fuchs, a psychologist turned international anxiety coach, and I'm on a mission to share a new perspective on anxiety that puts you firmly back in control of your life so that anxiety no longer interrupts you. So grab your cuppa, get comfy, and listen in as we demystify, destigmatize, and deconstruct what you think you know about anxiety so that you can finally do what you have struggled with for so long. Ease anxiety for good.
I want to ask you something today. When you imagine what it would feel like to heal from anxiety, what do you picture? For most people, the answer is some version of arrival, a place you finally reach where things are settled, where the alarm stops going off, where you wake up and your body is just quiet, where life feels manageable in a way that maybe it hasn't for years. If that's you, the picture makes sense. When you've spent a really long time living with anxiety, calm can kind of feel like a destination. But I want to offer you a completely different picture today. Because healing isn't actually a destination. It's not a place that you're going to arrive where all is well and nothing is hard anymore. Healing is something quieter than that. And it's actually a little bit more human, too. It's actually learning to be okay, like genuinely okay, with the raw, sometimes very messy, sometimes uncomfortable experiences of having emotions, of being alive, of not having everything under control. And if you're high functioning, then that reframe is either deeply relieving or it can quietly be terrifying, sometimes even both at once. You're going to notice that the last few episodes, I've rarely been talking about what it means to deeply heal. Welcome back to the Ease Anxiety Podcast. My name is Deanta and I am your host today. There is this myth of arrival. So let's name this honestly. The idea that healing means that we are somewhere calm, we are somewhere fixed, we are somewhere beyond difficulty. It's one of the most pervasive myths in the wellness space. And you know what? It makes a certain kind of sense. Because when you're suffering, you want it to stop. You want to get to the other side, you want it to be done, and you need to know that when you're healed, that's what it will be like. But my friends, that framing, this idea of getting to the other side, it actually carries a hidden assumption that on the other side, the difficult feelings stop. That once you've healed, you're just not going to feel fear anymore, or grief, or overwhelm, or any particular kind of dread that settles in your chest before something hard. And here's what's true, right? You're actually still going to feel all of those things. And that's not because the healing didn't work, but that's because those feelings are actually part of being human. They're not really evidence of a problem, they're evidence of life. The goal of healing is never really to stop feeling. The goal of it is to stop being at war with what you feel. So let me tell you what I actually see when my clients start to heal. It's not really a big dramatic thing. It doesn't usually announce itself as in, look at me, I'm healed now. The first thing that I often hear is something like, I noticed I was anxious, but then I didn't spiral. Not, I wasn't anxious. Not, I felt completely calm. But rather, the anxiety came and I didn't go under with it. That is the nervous system starting to learn something new. So the second thing I hear is something like, I caught myself about to manage it and then I just didn't. So they didn't reach for the breathing technique or the distraction technique. They didn't immediately try to make that feeling stop. They just let it be there. And then it passed. Now, that might sound small, but I tell you what, friends, it is not small. That is actually the beginning of the fear of fear loop unwinding. And the third thing, the one that actually surprises people the most, doesn't announce itself at all. It's more that like one day they realize, hey, I went through something hard last week and I didn't fall apart. I felt it fully and I came back from it. That is healing, not the absence of difficulty, but the discovery that you can move through that difficulty without it destroying you. So this is the part that I want you to sit with today. Because the truth is, we live in a culture that is treating emotional discomfort as a problem to be solved. If you feel anxious, here's a tool. If you feel sad, here's a reframe. If you feel overwhelmed, here's a routine. If you feel too much, here's a tablet. And underneath all of that is this quiet but powerful message that's saying uncomfortable feelings are wrong. that they mean something is going badly, and that the goal is always to feel good consistently, reliably, as much of the time as possible. But really, let's face it, that's not what being human is. Being human is feeling things that are uncomfortable, because everything in the world has its opposite. That's the universal law of polarity, and it states that everything in the universe has a dual aspect, or two opposing poles, right? And these two things are inseparable parts of the same entity, such as light and dark, hot and cold, positive and negative. But in the same way, in order for us to experience happy, wonderful emotions, we also have to have the opposite side of that. We cannot only have one side of this coin, which means that if you want all the happy, wonderful, positive feelings, you have to be okay with the opposite side of that. So being human means feeling things that are uncomfortable. It's uncertainty that doesn't resolve cleanly. It's relationships that are sometimes hard. It's a body that is holding more than the mind wants to acknowledge. It's grief and joy and fear and love, all tangled up together in a way that doesn't really fit neatly into any sort of wellness framework. And healing from anxiety is not about transcending that. It is becoming okay with that. Not resigned to it, not defeated by anxiety, but genuinely, groundedly okay with the fact that life is sometimes raw, and that rawness does not mean that something is wrong with you. For a lot of people out there, this is actually the deepest shift of all. Because so much of that anxiety is driven by the belief, conscious or not, that they should be able to get on top of it, control it, manage it into something more acceptable. And healing is the moment that that belief loosens its grip. Not all at once, but enough so that you can sit with it and you can feel without immediately trying to fix it. Now, I really want to reiterate this distinction because it matters. Healing from anxiety is not about becoming someone who never feels fear. What changes is not the presence of fear, but it's what that fear actually means to you. Before healing, fear generally means danger, that something is wrong, that you need to brace or you need to escape or you need to manage or control. And after healing, not perfectly, not always, but genuinely, fear is just a feeling. It's one that your body knows how to have without always treating it as an emergency. And that shift, my friends, means that you can then feel anxious before a hard conversation and have it anyway. That you can notice an old familiar dread and not let it make the decisions for you. That you can have a hard week, like a really, really hard week, and feel it fully without catastrophizing it into evidence that you're broken. Not because you've suppressed those feelings and not because you've managed them perfectly, but really because your nervous system is learning slowly through these experiences that it doesn't have to treat every uncomfortable feeling like a catastrophe or a danger. That is what freedom from anxiety actually feels like. It's spaciousness. It's the ability to be with yourself, all of yourself, including the parts that are uncomfortable, without it becoming a crisis. Now, all of that sounds beautiful, right? But I want to be honest here because false promises are going to do more harm than good. Some things take longer than people expect. The instinct to monitor and to check on how you're feeling, to track whether that anxiety is better or worse today, that habit is often one of the last things to go. Certain triggers, like the old ones that are tied to older, deeper patterns, they can also take time to fully loosen their charge. And there will be hard weeks. Weeks where it feels like you're right back at the beginning, where the old fear keeps coming back louder maybe than it's been in months. That is not a relapse. That is not evidence that your healing hasn't happened. That is a human being going through something hard. The difference after genuine healing work is that those hard weeks, they don't last as long, and the spiral just doesn't go as deep, and the recovery is just much faster. And somewhere underneath the difficulty, there is going to be a part of you that knows this is temporary. I know how to come back from this. I've done it before. And that knowing, that quiet, embodied, earned knowing is not the absence of hard times. It's the absence of being destroyed by them. And it's going to coexist always with the full spectrum of being human. The mess that we are, the uncertainty that we have, the feelings that don't resolve neatly. That is healing. That's what it looks like. I know that for some of you, the idea of healing has started to feel like something that's just going to happen for other people. You've seen the transformation stories, you've heard the podcast episodes, and somewhere along the way, quietly, you're maybe kind of wondering, maybe that's just not me. I want to gently push back on that. And I'm not going to promise you that healing is linear or fast or certain, but this is what I've got to say. Every person that I have worked with who has genuinely shifted their relationship with anxiety has had a moment, usually quite early on in the journey, where they didn't believe it was possible for them either. Now, what most people do is they have the doubt and then they believe that that's evidence that they're right. Well, it's not evidence that you're right. It's actually evidence that you have been stuck a really long time, long enough that you've actually lost the feeling of what it could be like to be different. And that's exactly what the work is going to rebuild, right? Not a belief, not a perfect, arrived at, all is well version of yourself, but rather a lived experience of moving through something hard and then coming back again and again until your nervous system knows in its bones that it can handle the full, raw, imperfect experience of being you. That's the work. That's what healing is. It's becoming someone who can be with the imperfect fully, honestly, without falling apart. It's real, it's grounded, it's an embodied sense that you can handle what life brings, including the parts that are uncomfortable. So if this episode has shifted something in how you're thinking about what healing could look like for you, then the next step is the anxiety solution class. It's dropped down in the show notes. It's a fabulous next step, and I will see you in the next episode.
So that wraps up today's episode, and I have a huge favor to ask. If you found any value in what you heard today, please be sure to leave a review. I assure you it is not to stroke my ego, although it does help me to know that you love the show, but to help the algorithms get this episode into the hands of others who might need it. Make sure you follow the Ease Anxiety podcast so that you never miss a future episode. And lastly, I really love to connect. So find me on TikTok or Instagram and be sure to say hi. All the links are found below in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in.